Welcome back to the Uneducated Philosopher. Today I want to talk about an article that I read late last night from the Wall Street Journal. Um, I try to read everything. I read like so many newspapers every day, and the Wall Street Journal I find to be the most douchiest newspaper of them all. But I check it out because I think it's important to see the views of everybody from all different aspects. Now, the Wall Street Journal is like the Bible for like the New York businessman. These Wall Street cats, they all, keep up to date, and all the high-end strategists that work for Wall Street or involved in Wall Street, they all take part in the Wall Street Journal. They write and stuff like that. One of the guys is a writer called Thane Rosenbaum, and he wrote an article yesterday that's just absolutely appalling and disgusting. Now, I believe Thane Rosenbaum is like a professor at, I think, Columbia University or a bunch of these universities, and he goes back and forth, and he writes like these books, and he does stuff for Wall Street Journal, and very privileged guy. Rosenbaum, I would say, he's obviously of Jewish descent, and not that there's anything wrong with that, but you can kind of see where his bias comes from. I don't want to say too much about the guy because I don't know him personally, but I know that he's a professor, and I know that he's a very privileged guy, and he works for all the top end newspapers as a strategist, and he's got these books, and so he comes from privilege, and he does really well for himself. And so he had an article yesterday for the Wall Street Journal. Hamas civilian death strategy. Gazans shelter terrorists and their weapons in their homes right beside sofas and dirty diapers. Let's state the obvious. No one likes to see dead children. Well, that's not completely true. Hamas does. They would prefer those children to be Jewish, but there is greater value to them if they are Palestinian. Outmatched by Israel's military, handicapped by rocket launchers with the steady hands of Barney Fife, Hamas is playing a long game of moral revulsion. With this conflict about to enter its third week, winning the PR war is the best Hamas can hope to achieve. Their weapon of choice, however, seems to be the cannon fodder of their own people, performing double duty and also sounding the drumbeat of Israeli condemnation. If you can't beat Iron Dome, then deploy sacrificial children as human shields. Even civilian casualties will continue to mount. The evolving story will focus on the collateral damage of Palestinian lives. Israel's moral dilemma will receive little attention. Each time the ledgers of relative loss are reported, world public opinion will turn against the Jewish state and box Israel into an even tighter corner of the Middle East. All the ordinary rules of warfare are upended in Gaza. Everything about this conflict is asymmetrical. Hamas wears no uniforms, and they don't meet Israeli soldiers on battlefields. With the exception of keffiyeh scarves, it isn't possible to distinguish a Hamas militant from a non-combatant pharmacist. In Vietnam, the U.S. military learned guerrilla warfare in jungles. In Gaza, the Jewish state has had to adapt to the altogether surreal terrain of apartment complexes and schoolhouses. There are now reports that Hamas and Islamic Jihad are transporting themselves throughout Gaza in ambulances packed with children. Believe it or not, a donkey laden with explosives detonated just the other day. The asymmetry is complicated even further by the status of these civilians. Under such maddening circumstances, are the adults, in legal and moral sense, actual civilians? To qualify as a civilian, one has to do more than simply look the part. How you came to find yourself in such a vulnerable state matters. After all, when everyone is wearing casual street clothes, civilian status is shared widely. The people of Gaza overwhelmingly elected Hamas, a terrorist outfit dedicated to the destruction of Israel, as their designated representatives. Almost instantly, Hamas began stockpiling weapons and using them against a more powerful foe with a solid track record of retaliation. What did Gazans think was going to happen? Surely they must have understood on election night that their lives would now be suspended in a state of utter chaos. Life expectancy would be miserably low. Children would be without a future. Staying alive would be a challenge, if staying alive even mattered anymore. To make matters worse, Gazans sheltered terrorists and their weapons in their homes, right beside Ottoman sofas and dirty diapers. When Israel warned them of impending attacks, the inhabitants defiantly refused to leave. On some basic level, you forfeit your right to be called civilians when you freely elect members of terrorist organizations as statesmen, invite them to dinner with blood on their hands, and allow them to set up shop in your living room as their base of operations. At that point, you begin to look a lot more like conscripted soldiers than innocent civilians, and you have wittingly made yourself targets. It also calls your parenting skills into serious question. In the U.S., if a parent is found to have locked his or her child in a parked car for a summer day with the windows closed, a social worker takes the child away from the demonstrably unfit parent. In Gaza, parents who place their children in the direct line of fire are rewarded with an interview on MSNBC where they can call Israel a genocidal murderer. The absurdity of Israel's Gaza campaigns requires an entirely new terminology for the conduct of wars. Enemy combatants, theater of war, innocent civilians, casualties of war all have ambiguous meaning in Gaza. There is nothing casual about why so many Gazans die. These deaths are tragically predictable and predetermined. Hamas builds tunnels for terrorists, and their rockets bomb shelters for the people of Gaza never entered the Hamas leaders' minds. So much innocence is lost in this citizen army, which serves as the armor for demented leaders and their dwindling arsenal of rockets and martyrs. In Gaza, the death toll of civilians is an endgame disguised as a tragedy. It is a sideshow without death. Hamas has nothing to show for its efforts. Surely there are civilians who have been killed in this conflict, who have taken every step to distance themselves from this fast-moving war zone, and children whose parents are not card-carrying Hamas loyalists. These are the true innocents of Gaza. It is they for whom our sympathy should be reserved. The impossibility of identifying them and saving them is Israel's deepest moral dilemma. Mr. Rosenbaum is a senior fellow who directs the Forum on Law, Culture, and Society at New York University's School of Law. So, that was the article by Mr. Rosenbaum in the Wall Street Journal. My initial reaction to that right away was, Rosenbaum, you're a fucking douchebag. And, the reason why I say this is because, there are some points to this where, okay, yeah, the people did give power over to Hamas, and, there are lots of civilians that are being mixed with the soldiers, and there are a lot of people that are, I guess, playing ball with what's happening, and that puts them at risk, and they should know that. But Gaza, you got a population of like 1.5 to 2 million people in a really, really small space. It's almost like taking the whole city of Toronto, its population, and shrinking them down to like half of Ajax. You know, it's like, it's so dense and it's so tight that, you know, a lot of these people really don't have a choice. And, you know, yeah, you know, I understand how he says we feel sorry for those people that are trying to get away and can't. But the truth is those that are playing ball, a lot of them are doing it just because they're scared. They're fucking scared. And to say that Israel has the people's best intentions in mind is just absolutely stupid. And, you know, it really pisses me off to see somebody like Thane Rosenbaum from the United States, who is, you know, this educated man, you know, has all this privilege, who, you know, obviously has a bias, and he sits there and he writes an article like this. You know, like, where's the professionalism? You're a fucking idiot. You're an idiot. You know, you take away from these people that have very, very little. You're trying to desensitize the people that are reading your articles to what's going on. You're trying to give them a different outlook on what's going on. And not only that, you're giving the rest of these Wall Street Journal douchebags justification, because they can turn around and they can be like, oh, well, they elected these guys and they're firing rockets and they're doing this. Yes, nobody wants to argue that Hamas is in the wrong also. And nobody is going to argue that the death is wrong on both sides. But what is fucking brutal is that Gazans have nowhere to go. They can't go to Jordan. They can't go to Egypt. They definitely can't go to Israel. And a lot of people don't want to go anywhere. They want to stay home. This is where they're from. This is where they live. They're being squeezed tighter and tighter and tighter every year. They're losing hope. Every 5 or 6 years this shit is happening. They've had enough. And, you know, people are dying more and more every day. And yes, Israelis are dying, but it's nothing, not even nothing close to how many Palestinians are dying. I'm not anti-Semitic. I'm anti-war. And I'm not pro-Palestinian. I'm pro-peace. And I look at the United States giving more money to Israel every year for their military. They give more money than the average country's GDP. Every year, year in and year out, they give money to Israeli war, weapons defense, and all that shit. They created this army that Israel has right now. Every year they dump billions and billions for this. And now it's happening. And you got Obama going, oh, well, you know, no country is going to sit there and take being bombed. I mean, it's just not right. Oh, okay, so look at Yemen and Pakistan and Iraq and all those other countries that America's been fucking bombing for the last 10 years. That's okay. But no, you know, Gaza, who, you know, the Hamas is firing rockets into Israel, and we might as well go in there and fucking eradicate everybody. That's not the way. Now, there is the argument that people say that, okay, a ceasefire was offered and Hamas turned it down. Well, this is what you gotta understand. Ceasefires have been offered for fucking years now. Years. And Israel still fucking puts up their walls and closes in tighter and tighter and tighter on Palestine and takes more and more advantage of them. They've had enough. They know the ceasefire doesn't matter, and the terms of the ceasefire are ridiculous. They're absolutely ridiculous. See, America tells you, oh yeah, there's a ceasefire and Hamas turned it down. But what they don't tell you that the ceasefire is absolute surrender. That's it. Give it up. We're taking it all. And they say no. So then they go, oh, okay, well, you don't want a ceasefire? All right, well, we're going to bomb the shit out of you, and we're going to go in, and we're going to go in on a ground assault. Either side is not right for this. Either side is wrong because both sides are fighting each other, and innocent people are dying. Okay, there's only a small amount of Hamas soldiers that have died. There was only like about 10 Israeli soldiers that have died, and so far there's been like 800 Gazan civilians, Palestinian civilians that have died, and the toll is just going more and more and more as they get deeper into Gaza. So you know what, like, it's just bullshit either way. Both sides are wrong. There should be no war. The innocent people are suffering the most, and to say, oh well, you know, don't give in to the PR campaign because, you know, these innocent people, they aren't so innocent. What fucking choice do they have? Okay? What choice do they have? I got this side over here that's doing nothing but fucking me over, and then I'm stuck with this small side over here that says to me, hey, if you want to live, you gotta play ball with us. So what choice do I really have? If I want to live, I gotta cooperate. Oh, well, I do have the chance of leaving, even though I have nowhere to go, and I'm probably going to end up fucking dying before I even get to another country and try to get refugee status and get denied anyways. Like, it's just absolutely retarded. But the worst thing is to have douchebags like Thane Rosenbaum, who fucking jumps into his Mercedes every night and fucks his hot wife, will jump on his little laptop in his fucking Madison Avenue or Park Avenue fucking condo, jump on his little fucking fancy laptop and just sit there and type away about how, oh, don't believe in this bullshit PR campaigns. You know what? No side is right. War is wrong. But basically, Thane Rosenbaum, you are a fucking douchebag. I'm sorry, but when I read that last night for the first time in a long time, I actually got angry. I actually got angry with these jerk-off reporters. Not all of them are jerk-offs, but it seems to be the ones that count, the ones that have the biggest voice, the ones that people listen to the most and get into these big papers that everybody reads and believes. They're so indoctrinated and so fucked. It's ridiculous. So all I want to say is, people, don't buy into the hype. Don't buy into the bullshit. There might be some small truth to what people are saying on both sides, but bottom line is there's a bigger objective here, and it's not right. And innocent people are dying. So don't sit there and defend one side, and don't sit there and defend another side. Because you know what? The bottom line is innocent people are dying, and yes, they are innocent people, and it's fucking wrong. Bottom line. Thank you. If there is anything that you have to say, you can reply on social media. You can reply to me at robbie@un-educatedphilosopher.com. Sorry I got a little heated there, but it needed to be said. Thane Rosenbaum, you're a douchebag. Okay, thanks. Cheers.